Is it racist? I would look at racist as such a loaded term. I would argue that at Integral, racist ought not be used much. Or if it is, it has to be placed in the context of the meaning of the stage of development that is using it. So green or postmodern, this is, again, warrior red, traditional blue, modern orange, postmodern green, and then integral, different colors. But at this postmodern progressive stage, who's racist? Everybody's racist. Everybody, at least, who isn't actively anti-racist. You're racist whether you think you are or not, because the system itself is racist. Everything is run on whiteness. And I get that. I sort of recoil from it because I'm white, and we didn't used to talk that way. It was, we had the system, and then we had black people, and gay people, and we had women, and we had various things that we had to work on. But this idea of whiteness as an oppressive force is part of this green postmodern progressive narrative, and I want to understand it. I want to understand it. This is the Integral Project, is to understand it from their point of view, to be able to articulate it even better than they can. That's a goal. And so, I'm working on this, like everybody else, I think, of goodwill. And the most powerful thing I have found in my work with this personally is to just do a reverse visualization. I can try to look through the eyes of black people and try to see how whiteness is suffocating. And I see this on social media, and I try, and it's easy. But if I actually flip things around, and I visualize that my people, who I came from, and I think of my young cousins, and the young men who were full of life, and the young women who were with their blonde hair and their beauty, and these are the enslaved people. My people have been enslaved by black people, my ancestors. Then there's Jim Crow, and we were sort of marginalized and hung and lynched and had white restrooms and water fountains, and you couldn't swim in a black pool. And I see my people, and they're stuck in poverty with no options. And just that whole thing. All the people in power look like James Earl Jones or Serena Williams, And then I could sort of feel it. I can feel if I'm the person who's trying to navigate this world of black power everywhere. And of course, I could see that there's been progress, things have changed. But just as I noticed that, I can also see more and more deeply into how the culture of white people has made, in the case of my visualization, how the culture of black people have made all the rules and set all the standards. And that helps me get it. I want to get it from their point of view. So that's the progressive point of view. And so what's the post-progressive critique of that? The big one is that in the progressive mind, whiteness is actually conflated with modernity. So all of the things that makes modernity, and that is, clocks, arithmetic, corporations, pharmaceuticals, the whole modern world. It's not just the modern world that human beings grow into at a certain stage of development, which is what integral or any developmental thinking would show you. But because it came online mostly in Western Europe from the 1500s on, it's confused with whiteness. And I can understand how people could think that and how they conflate the two. So that's one critique that we would bring to this progressive narrative. The other is that in order for that narrative to be, to evolve further, we have to integrate modern and traditional views of racism. Okay, so that's what integral does. I mean, if we're looking at the culture wars, we generally see, and this is what we do at the Post-Progressive Post and at the Institute for Cultural Evolution, I do it in the Daily Evolver, always trying to come up with some win for especially the three big stages that are online in our time in the developed world. And that is traditionalism, the God and country people, the modernists who are secular and just want to make the trains run on time, and the postmodernists. Modernists are also globalists. Postmodernists who are multicultural, eco-sensitive, all of that good stuff. All three of them are completely appropriate stages of development. They're like 12-year-olds growing into 18-year-olds growing into, it's just, this is the natural movement of history and development. And they all have pieces of the truth, and they all have pernicious aspects. Mainly their pernicious aspects are the ones that say that we're the only appropriate worldview, which they all say. All three of them say that they're the only appropriate one, and they think that when the world starts thinking the way they do, then we're all going to get along. And Integral says no, that the fight itself is part of the evolutionary process. So we want to integrate the modern and traditional views that I'm going to look at here. So what's the modern view of racism? This is the secular one. We want to live in a colorblind society when we want to judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Martin Luther King actually said a lot of things that were progressive, but he was also really got that modern classic liberal thing of everybody just gets to be equal, and then we judge everybody on that standard. And so modernists, of course, understand history. They understand slavery, they understand Jim Crow, they understand, redlining and different things that, continue to this day. The fix for modernists is to stop doing that stuff, make it illegal. And so the great modern response to America's racial history was the Civil Rights Act in 1964. And that just makes it illegal to use race as a factor in public life. And the wrong way to fix that is to start demonizing whiteness, which is what you progressives are doing. And so, a modernist will inveigh against articles like this. There's really a lot of antibodies to it. And, as integralists, we want to see that. And we want to notice that. And we want to see the correctness of that. That's absolutely essential. But we also have a critique of modernity and of classic liberalism. And that is that it's largely materialistic. It's secular. The interiors, to use Ken Wilber's quadrant theory, the non-material reality is, reduced to atoms, and, thought and consciousness are reduced to synapses or some, function of the meat of the brain. And it lacks soul and an understanding of karma and emotional intelligence that, progressives get. So do traditionalists, but modernists, want to just iron all of that out and create what I would call a mean modernity, sort of a modern flatland. So we'll take all of that into account, both the good part, we colorblind, content of character, freedom, everybody in, modern, but they're lacking these interiors, this cultural stuff, the consciousness stuff. My friends who are, modern to postmodern, I've had several of them talk to me about how, and I do it myself, I could see it myself, how I have seen Black people as the other in ways that I don't want to, that I want to correct, but it's there. And my friends, I would say it of myself, I've made great progress in continuing to see people for who they are, past the color of their skin, past their sex, past how they look in general, and to see the person, in there is really important. So anyway, so we want all that. So then we look at traditionalism, and these are the God and country people. These are the social conservatives. And would they call themselves racist? No, the kinder word for them would be ethnocentric. It's to them just self-evident that their tribe, their people are the good ones. And that the others, however they are defined, and there has to be another because traditionalists see the world as a titanic battle between good and evil. And so, the other side, they may not be evil, they may not be even bad, but you can't totally trust them. That's the bad part. We don't want that necessarily. But we do want, what's the good part of that, I guess, is maybe the better way of thinking about it. And that is that there is actually a soul to one's people and one's ancestors. And that's not going to just be blenderized and homogenized by modernity, which modernity wants to do. That we want to actually reclaim that. And I noticed that in myself. I got my genetics done. My sister got it for me for Christmas one year. And I thought, Salzman, I was German, probably Jewish. There's a little bit of Romanian in there. I think the gypsies got all over the place. But for the most part, I was, I think 30% Great Britain, but it was 60+%, almost 70% was Scandinavian. And that just rang like a bell when I heard that. And it made me realize why it was when I went to Sweden and Denmark. First of all, I look like the people there. I'm tall, I like to wear big gray raincoats. I fit right into Amsterdam. But also, why did I love the fjords and the countryside of Sweden so much in my travels there? Why did I feel so at home there? And, there's something I want to consider that is real about that. And so in traditionalism, I want that. So the post-progressive view of racism is that, we want to see that there is this whiteness conflated with modernity. We want to at least understand that. We want to have the colorblind society. And then we also want to honor our, the blood. And you got to watch that bloodline thing, but but only because it's so powerful and so delicious and so rich to think about your ancestors in that way. So we want all of those to be online. And